All right. So let's just jump right into it because I want to have some fun with this. I want to make sure we fit this in today. We've done this the last couple of years, but it's Thanksgiving week. We all love Thanksgiving. I mean, we get football and food. You can't beat it. Hang out with your family, friends. It's a good week. So the last couple of years, we have related fantasy players to foods from Thanksgiving. All right. What players remind us of certain foods? Let's begin with turkey. People still like turkey. I'm a ham guy, but people still like turkey. It's boring. There are more exciting items on your plate. Sometimes there are more exciting players across the NFL, but turkey is that workhorse. Always reliable, right? You can just kind of count on turkey being a part of Thanksgiving. It's always going to be there. It's always going to show up. It's going to be on your plate. And so, Trip, from a fantasy perspective, who is that workhorse? Always reliable this season. They keep showing up. They've been there kind of start to finish. Who's that for you?
Chuba Hubbard is the turkey player for me. I mean, nobody was excited about Chuba Hubbard coming into the season. Everybody was worried about Jonathan Brooks. And I'll be honest, I was pessimistic about him, but I still said this guy is being drafted way too late. And man, he has just been a steady, reliable, meaty turkey running back for you this season. Now, I do want to throw a second one in here if I can, Bryce, if that's okay. I'll only do that with the turkey. But here's the thing I want to say about turkey at Thanksgiving. Okay, everybody says this is the most boring meat. Turkey is a necessary part of the Thanksgiving dinner, but who really gets excited about turkey until you meet a friend who fries that turkey or who brines that turkey, right? Who knows how to treat that turkey the right way so that it becomes the best dish on the table. So I'm also saying Saquon Barkley is like the fried turkey of this NFL season. I saw a stat this weekend that he in 11 games just surpassed his highest rushing total of any season with the Giants, right? They know how to treat that turkey right, man. And Saquon Barkley is just so delicious. And if you have him on your roster, you're like, this is the most exciting guy on the table, and I'm happy to feature him going forward. And he's gonna carry me to fantasy championships. So Chuba Hubbard, boring baked turkey. Still happy to have that guy on my team. Saquon Barkley, delicious, perfectly fried, flaming hot turkey right now. So.
Oh, that's a tremendous comparison. That was a surprise. I didn't know where you were going. That's a great call because I agree with you. Fried turkey is fantastic. A couple other names to throw out there. Najee Harris. He's never gets hurt. It's remarkable. Now he hasn't put up huge points, but he's been pretty steady. So he's kind of that solid turkey all season. And then Kyren Williams, same kind of thing. Mm-hmm. He's been healthy all season long. We keep waiting for him. Oh, where's Blake Corum? I've been leading that charge. But both those guys, solid turkeys all season. All right, how about the cranberry sauce? It looks suspect. Everyone gives it a hard time. But to many, it's surprisingly good. If you actually give it a shot, it's like, all right, yeah, no, it's pretty good. So we mentioned his name earlier today. It's got to be Baker Mayfield, right? Baker Mayfield has been the cranberry sauce of this season. Everybody wrote him off because I don't want Baker Mayfield on my team. And all he's done is deliver. QB1, baby. Or at least a starting quarterback. But he was the QB1 for a number of weeks.
I mean, I'm in a super flex league where usually, if you're playing super flex, you take a quarterback in the first round, or definitely the first 2 rounds. And there's a guy in this league who waited and took Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. He's got Darnold and Mayfield as his quarterbacks, and we all laughed at him at the time. But those guys are they look suspect, but they've been a little bit tangy this season. And cranberry sauce rightly applied makes everything around it better. And Baker and Darnold to a certain extent, although I think Baker's having way more fun, and I'm having more fun with him on my team. But that's a great one, man. He's your cranberry sauce. You're dead on there.
Absolutely. All right. So sweet potato casserole is my favorite dish. So this goes to the, sweet potatoes. I like all potatoes. There are a lot of great potatoes, right? Different styles of potatoes and a lot of good, solid potatoes. You can't go wrong, but always sweet potato casserole steals the show. It's the highlight of the plate. You look across at all these, bland, you got some browns and different colors and all that, your gravy and your stuffing and all that. And then you see this orange, this bright orange sweet potato casserole. And like I said earlier, the wide receiver position, you've got a lot of different guys, a lot of solid guys we've been around a long time. Justin Jefferson's had his moments this season, and every once in a while, CeeDee Lamb has had a good game and big week and all that. But who has been the highlight of the wide receiver position this year? In orange, it's Jamar Chase. He has separated himself from the rest of the league. He's a highlight every time he catches the ball. Huge plays, and he has absolutely stolen the show, and he's averaging 22.9 fantasy points per game. He's caught 12 touchdowns. Remarkable. And as I was doing some of these stats, T. Higgins is like the fourth wide receiver overall average per game. He's missed some games. But man, the Bengals, they're the sweet potato casserole. It's delicious. So from a fantasy offensive standpoint, they can't win actual NFL games. But anyway, all right, let's get to I stole that one from you, Trip. Sorry. So I don't know if you have another sweet potato, but he's the guy. He's the guy. All right, when it comes to stuffing, it's boom or bust. Sometimes it's delicious. Sometimes it's dry and maybe has weird things in it. Like your crazy aunt threw some random items in the stuffing. And you're like, oh, wait, what is that? You pull it out and you go, I don't know what this is, why this is in the stuffing. And so it's a boom or bust. It's a boom or bust. So Trip, who are the boom or bust players this season for you?
I mean, it seems like Jaden Reed has got to be on this list. Coming into the season, everybody said this is the best wide receiver on the Green Bay Packers, and he's just had some dud games, and then he's had a few where he just blows up and wins you the week. And those guys are so hard to put into your lineup, but you just got to know what you're doing. Is I'm hoping that the floor doesn't fall out. And maybe he's going to win me the week. So Jaden Reed, definitely on that list. I mean, Jameson Williams, if Jameson Williams can just kind of get out of his own way and stop getting suspended for different things. I feel like the reason Jameson Williams has been boom or bust thus far is because he seems to never play more than 4 games in a row, so he may be another one of these guys that we talk about as like a league winner down the stretch. But yeah, I love the stuffing analogy, man. I've had some truly atrocious stuffing, and then I've had meals where stuffing is the best dish on the table. You're always going to have guys like that on your roster, your stuffing players, and you just hope that they're tastier more often than they're terrible.
Bingo. Exactly. All right, this is a fun one. So gravy. Everybody likes gravy, right? It's nice to have, and it can take over a plate. So if you're like a big gravy guy and you just pour it on, and now all of a sudden it's all over your plate, it's taken over. But at the same time, gravy can't be your plate. Like if you just have a plate of gravy, it's not going to be good. You can't carry a meal for you. It's just nice to have. And who's that? This is perfect. It's Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is the gravy. Like he's nice to have on your fantasy team, but he's not going to carry you. He just can't do it. He's a nice bonus to have. You put a little gravy here. You throw Taysom Hill in on a bye week. You hope for the best. But if you're counting on him being your plate and you're going to carry a plate of Taysom Hill, a plate of gravy, I think you're in big trouble. Is that fair? Any other ideas come to mind? Any other players come to mind?
Dude, that is so good with Taysom. You want the rest of your plate to be good enough that you just need a little scoop of Taysom every once in a while. Marvin Harrison has been that guy for me. I mean, I believed in Marvin Harrison and the Cardinals coming into the season. That's no secret. And you have had some games this season where you're like, man, I'm glad I got some of that good gravy on my plate. But my problem is that I just tried to pour it all over every roster. And it's really ruined things for me. So yeah, you man does not live by gravy alone, right? And so we can't count on these guys to get us anywhere in the long run. So
it's a good point. Gravy can ruin things too, especially if you don't know what the gravy tastes like. You got to taste the gravy. There needs to be almost before the festivities begin. Let me get a little taste of the gravy. Can we do a little taste test on the gravy before I do pour it on whatever I'm going to pour it on?
Such a great point, man. We did not know what the Marvin Harrison gravy was coming into the season. I think we still don't know. And so we're going to be back in this place next year, I think. But he could be the perfect sort of accent to a great roster. But he can't carry the meal for you.
Because you committed early. Like you took Marvin Harrison in the second round. You went all in on Marvin Harrison. So if you go all in on gravy, early and you pour it all over everything.
I've done it, man. It's what I do.
Dangerous.
I see the gravy. I get really, if it's in one of those nice gravy
Oh
boats,
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
see it and I get excited about it, and you can overdo it with the gravy.
You gotta be careful. It's too salty. Now you're done. You're done. Your meal's you got it. You're committed. You can't go get a second plate if you haven't
I'm
finished
glad we're
your
doing
plate.
this. I'm glad we're doing this before the Thanksgiving meal here because these are good meal reminders for me, not just fantasy football reminders. I got to be careful with the gravy on Thursday, man. So I'm glad
No
we're having this
question.
conversation.
All right, I got 3 more items for you. You thought this segment was short. This is a long segment. This is the show today, basically. All right, so green bean casserole. Joe, my wife has already made one, which is delicious. But I think she's making another one for Friday. But here's the deal with green bean casserole. You don't necessarily want it, but you gotta have it. It's key. It's a part of it. It'll deliver some nutrients for you. And so I think this season you didn't necessarily want Josh Jacobs or Alvin Kamara. And guess what? Both of those guys have absolutely delivered the greens. They've delivered for you. The nutrients that you needed on your fantasy roster, they came through. So that's some green bean casserole. And then Trip, when it comes to sort of the best combo, this is a little bit of a preference. I'm not sure everybody's on board with this, but my preference when it comes to a combo deal is corn and potatoes. So corn casserole with some mashed potatoes, that's ideal. All right, to mix them together and they complement each other, the perfect complement. And so this season, what running backs, what wide receivers have been the perfect complement together?
I mean, this is so obvious, man, but it's David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs. And I mean, they've got this stat running now that they've both scored a touchdown in 11 straight games. They've got the Sonic and Knuckles nickname going, which is a super cool variation on kind of the thunder and lightning thing that you hear so often, man. And I don't think many people have both of those guys on their roster. But if you did, you could still feel just fine about that. And when you see them on the field together, and what the Lions are doing. The Lions' ability, man, to be a passing offense when they need to be, but just to run the ball down your throat when they want to is the reason why they're the Super Bowl favorites right now. And what a great combo. You know, I saw that you put on the show notes here, Puka and Cooper Cup as well. I think that one is pretty apt. You know, and it's like it's sort of imagine that you've got somebody in your family who's just been a master of making like mashed potatoes for years and years, and that's what Cooper Cup is. Just one of the most delicious things on the table, and then somebody married into the family who can make a mean corn dish. You know, some
Mm,
kind of corn casserole that you've never seen before. And I thought coming into the season that maybe Puka was a little overhyped and that Cooper was not being appreciated. But what we've seen over the last few weeks is when kind of the Rams' backs are against the wall, they're just going to throw the ball to Puka Nakua. 15 times a game they're going to target him, and so he's become the more exciting dish. But the two of them together, now I can't figure out the Rams offense, but
mm-mm.
when that offense is clicking, you can feel good about having either one of those guys on your roster.
Absolutely. But when you have both, then you really win. The mashed potatoes and corn, you want both. All right,
Got to mix them together, man.
that's it. Last thing. You finish up Thanksgiving with a delicious pie. And for me, I want as many pies as possible. I want the different options. And what's interesting is, all the different pies are great in their own way. So on Sunday, we celebrated at my parents' house. We had a pumpkin pie. We actually had apple crisp, but we'll call it apple pie, and then pecan pie. And I have to admit that pecan pie is a little underrated. And I start to wonder, wait, is pecan pie the best pie at Thanksgiving? And so this pie situation actually compares to the rookie quarterbacks this year because Caleb Williams came out as pumpkin pie. All right, he's going to be the number one quarterback. We know pumpkin pie is number one. Like, we know that. And all of a sudden, Bo Nix has been that pecan pie going, wait a second. Maybe Bo Nix is actually the best. And then you've got Jaden Daniels as apple pie because he's the most versatile. Like, you can do apple pie kind of different ways. I've seen it, different. The texture of the apples goes different. And so Jaden can kind of beat you in different ways. This last week, he was horrible for a few quarters and then all of a sudden, started lighting it up. And so Once you have a little bit of apple pie, you throw a little ice cream on it. Now you're good to go. But anyway, I don't know how that comparison translates. But and then the last one is cherry pie, and it sometimes a little late to the game. You're like, oh yeah. Plus we've got a cherry pie. Oh, okay. Drake May came in late in the season, and he's been very solid. So all the pies have, something that makes them great in their own way. It's sometimes hard to figure out who the best QB in this class is. And it's hard to know which of these pies is the best, but it might just be pecan pie.
Pecan pie for my money is the best of all pies. I absolutely love it. And what stood out to me as you're naming those four guys, Bryce, is it, I think I would have said, okay, at the beginning of next season, so the beginning of the 2025 season, we're going to be talking about each one of these four guys as like a viable fantasy quarterback, and their franchises are going to feel okay about them. But if you had told me a month ago that each of these four guys, we could be talking about them as someone you're putting in your starting lineup this fantasy football season, I would have said you're crazy. But right now, that seems to be true. Now, the Bears have a brutal schedule down the stretch, but I really think Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Drake May, it's not out of the question that you could start any one of those four guys. And so maybe just like the perfect dessert right here at the end of the season, they're coming in just in time to kind of give us that little boost that we need at the end. And so this is a really apt metaphor, and I love each of those four players and the pies that you compared them to. I'm going with pecan pie as the top pie, and I'm still on the fence about whether that's Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels. But right now, it looks like it might be Bo Nix.
It might be. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with pumpkin pie, but I have tasted some weird pumpkin pies too. So, just from a pie standpoint, outside
Well, that's like Caleb Williams, right? He's a weird dude, and he can kind of go either way on any given week, So you've had some good pumpkin pies, you've had some bad ones.
That's a good point. No, that is true. That is true. But pecan pie, man. So when I was at App, we go through the cafeteria line, and like as a freshman and sophomore, I ordered dessert almost every night. So like whatever my meal was in the cafeteria, I'm getting dessert, and more often than not, I would have pie. I mean, it's amazing that I wasn't 300 pounds, but I enjoyed the pie. But App had some good pecan pie, and I think it was an apple pie, like a little crumble on top. Oh, it was great. So anyway, shout out to the App cafeteria. Welburn, baby. Welburn cafeteria. It was awesome.